Hey guys, and welcome back to Speak Freely, here where we celebrate the freedom of speech. And today we are going to be hitting on a topic that is really sensitive to me, and I was like questioning whether I was really going to talk about this or not, because like I don't like really discussing or debating topics that make me like really emotional or triggered, because like I feel like it washes down the argument when you're too emotionally or attached to a subject or a topic or anything like that. But I had to talk about this because I feel like I needed to just do my part and get it out there. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but I feel like I'm very disillusioned and frustrated and just disappointed in society and this humankind right now, because I don't even understand why this is like a discussion. Like, this shouldn't even be a discussion. We should have never allowed society to get to this point where it's okay to basically advocate for the idea of grooming children. And that is how I see this. I don't think there's any way else around the idea of normalizing grown adults, grown men and grown women going to small children to talk about what's between their legs, what's in their pants, their sexuality, their genitals, their gender expression. I feel like is extremely inappropriate.
This has been my first year in preschool with a class of my own, teaching alongside another queer neurodivergent educator, and we have been rocking our Tuesday class. We've been talking about gender and skin color. It's been fabulous. So today at the lunch table, when the topic of gender and genitals came up, one of our students plainly looked up and said, "Well, I'm a girl today, but I know that teacher Co isn't." No, they're NB. And the look on the incoming teacher's face.
And I remember as a child, I was told if an adult ever dare try to bring up topics like this with me, it was run away, stranger danger, immediately tell your parents. This was something that was inappropriate. This was something that was kept between you and your parents, or maybe a therapist or a doctor or a counselor. But the fact that they're normalizing young children having grown adult conversations about, again, what's in their pants and their sexuality at preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade level is beyond me, and I don't understand how we freaking got here as a society.
Hi, so I have a small dilemma. I am starting a new job on Monday, and it's a teaching job, so the kids are going to call me either Mr. or Mrs. Jamie. It depends on what I want, but I, as a non-binary being, I don't know what to pick. I feel like Mrs. would be easier for the kids, but Mr. makes me feel better. It's young kids. My class is gonna be 4-year-olds. I don't know if I want to go by Jamie or Jamie Ray, because Jamie Ray is the name that I go by now. I don't know.
I never tell parents, period. On their survey at the beginning of the year, when it asked for preferred name and pronouns, it also asked for what you want me to refer to as when I call home and what pronouns to use. So then I just make sure when I'm calling home, I use what they prefer when I call home. Even if someone told me I couldn't do that and I couldn't call them whatever they want or the pronouns they want without parent permission, I would still do it.
I don't even know why this is a debate, and trying to disguise it as like we're just trying to teach kids inclusivity. Small children, especially the age range they seem to be like really desperately targeting right now, they're already inclusive. That is their nature because they are children.
I don't think that's right, and it should be banned. Nobody should be talking to anybody's child about sexuality except their parents.
But we have come across people today that are saying absolutely teach them K through third grade about transgenderism, transitioning, because it's inclusive, they said. What do you think?
No, because I think when you're a child, you're already inclusive. You don't know. Little boys will hug little boys. Little girls will hug little girls. You can mold a child to anything. You can mold a child to be racist. A child can be molded because that's their mindset. They're young. Just let them grow. There would not have been, I wish somebody would have come to my child in the second grade, kindergarten, whatever, and trying to teach them about sexuality. Oh, no, you don't. Not acceptable. Because now you're bridging the gap of parental rights. You're a teacher. Teach my child. teach my child school things.
Little kids do not care if you're a boy or you're a girl. They don't care what race you are. They don't care what you look like. They don't care what your gender expression or your sexuality may or may not be, because they're children. It is their nature to be inclusive. When you learn biases and prejudices as you get older, as you age, you learn hate. That is not innate in you. You're not born that way. So why do a bunch of adults need to teach children their already natural instincts to be inclusive? I don't understand that. Or this idea that little kids already, you're born gay, right? Or you're born trans, so this is already in them, and we're just giving them the tools so they can develop properly. I still don't understand at that age, again, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, why, even if a child is gay, why does it really matter to that child at that moment, right? If he's growing up in a healthy, well-rounded family and he's loved or she is loved, why does it matter? I feel like your sexuality becomes more a part of your life as you get older because you become sexually active. It becomes more a part of your life because you start to develop romantic relationships. But at 7, 6, 5, 9, 8 years old, you're not hopefully develop any type of sexual relationship or romantic relationships because you are a child. So you being gay or trans really doesn't affect your life at this point anyway, because you're just a little kid. I don't know why adults can't just allow little kids to just be freaking little kids. This basically stemmed from, of course, the sort of parental control bill that a lot of people were trying to deem or label Don't Say Gay bill, because they were trying to demonize it, and what the left never really can do is they can never argue the actual point, because then their points seem ridiculous, so they have to sort of exaggerate something or straw man you and then argue that point instead. DeSantis signed the bill so parents can have more rights in what's being taught to their children, so teachers cannot have secret sexuality clubs in their classrooms without telling the parent, and so the teacher would have to report any disturbing or any mental health issues that might be going on with the child instead of keeping it secret from the parent once again. I think because of that bill, it really blew open Pandora's box into what's really going on in the education system, and maybe this has been going on longer than we think or know, and we just don't realize it. Is a New Jersey school, an elementary school, that's been exposed for basically trying to teach like gender and sexuality courses to elementary schools as young as kindergarten age, second grade, first grade.
Planning to teach young children about gender identity. The new guidelines, which go into effect in September, include lessons for students starting in first grade. Joining us now with reaction is New Jersey Republican State Senator Holly 𝒯𝒽. Wonderful to have you here. What is your concern about this?
Thank you. I'm a mom myself, and I got an email to my legislative office a couple of days ago from some concerned parents who were provided with a sample curriculum, and it just goes way too far. We're teaching first graders, kindergarteners, that if you have a penis, it doesn't mean that you're a boy. If you have a vagina, it doesn't mean you're a girl. Telling kids as young as 5th grade that, if you don't want to go through puberty, there are things called puberty blockers. I think that we've just really kind of lost our way in what we're trying to teach our children.
Holly, let me read to you from one of these lesson plans for first graders. It says, this is from Pink, Blue, and Purple lesson plan for first grade. Gender identity is that feeling of knowing your gender. You might feel like you are a boy. You might feel like you are a girl. You might feel like you're a boy even if you have body parts that some people might tell you are girl parts. You might feel like you're a girl even if you have body parts that some people might tell you are boy parts. Chris Christie was on Brian Kilmeade's radio show. Of course, he's former governor of New Jersey. I'm sure you know him well. Here's what he said.
I think this is just an indication, a further indication of the crazy liberal policies of my successor, Phil Murphy, who is, in the progressive movement. He's on the left of the progressive movement. And this kind of stuff just should not be going on.
Since this has come to light, what have you heard from constituents to your office?
It's amazing. I've had teachers, Democratic teachers, who have reached out and said, thank you for exposing this. We don't want to teach this stuff. Our children just lost 2 years of education. A lot of them are lagging, and we need to focus on core things. providing support for children who are part of the LGBTQ community is important, but the far left has just gone so extreme on this type of stuff that parents are really fighting back. I've heard from people all over the state. I've heard from people as far away as Australia. And I think it's something that parents' voices really need to be heard on these type of things.
And where do you think that this goes? Do you think that it will actually go into effect in September, or has the governor, Phil Murphy, shown any willingness to rethink this?
Well, and this is part of what parents don't understand. These guidelines were implemented by an unelected board, a state board of education, so it was done administratively. And I think now is the time that they have to stand up, they need to go to the Board of Ed meetings, and they need to express what they think is appropriate and age appropriate for their children to be taught. I don't think the governor's going to back off of this, because he does pride himself on being an uber progressive. And this is uber progressive politics.
Washington State, Oregon teach kindergartners there are many ways to express gender. Oregon State standards require 8-year-olds to define sexual orientation.
Apparently this curriculum is an opt-out course, meaning if the parents aren't paying attention to what's being taught to their kids and they don't physically or verbally opt their child out of this course, that means the teachers are freely allowed to teach a 7-year-old or 6-year-old about sexuality and talk about what's between their legs and gender expression, and basically teaching them that they can change their gender and teaching them all the steps they can take to change their gender, like puberty blockers and surgery and things like that. And so it's not a parental consent class, right? So I don't really understand what's the difference between sex ed that I first took when I was in 6th grade. I believe I was about 11 or 12 years old. And we had to have parental consent. You had to take a form home and your parents had to sign it saying, this is okay, I want you to teach this to my child, which my parent did, by the way. And if you didn't want your kid to be taught that, then they had to sit out of that class. I don't understand what's the difference between sex ed that you teach to older students to teaching about sex, sexuality, gender expression, gender orientation, your genitals and all those things, to again 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, kindergarten, 2nd graders, 1st graders. What is the difference? You can you're basically, in my opinion, teaching sort of soft sex ed to small children without the parental consent. Because again, this is an opt-out. So if parents are busy, they're working multiple jobs, they're tired, and they're putting the trust into the school to properly educate their students about, the basics like math and English and science, aren't paying attention, then their kids are basically being secretly groomed behind their back. And again, I don't see this any other way. This is grooming. Again, you're normalizing the idea of grown people, grown men and women talking to 6 and 7-year-olds about sexuality. I don't know why anybody doesn't see any different than that, because if you had a stranger out of a park, if a strange man came out of a park, went to a 7-year-old and said, hey little girl, I want to talking to you about your sexuality, you would think that's weird. But for some reason, because it's a teacher, all of a sudden it's okay. These are teachers. They're not experts. They don't have doctorate degrees. They're not doctors. They're not psychiatrists. They're not therapists. They're not counselors. They are just teachers. And by the way, your curriculum is usually given to you or approved by the state, so it's really not the teacher, it's the state, and the teacher can kind of come up with creative ways to teach a school. And I'm not saying that the school board has no control over the curriculum or no say, but it's usually approved by the state, or that's why DeSantis can kind of get it out of the schools, because he's a part of the state. He's a governor, I believe, or mayor. This is gross to me. I'm not even a parent, and I'm livid about this. And the only silver lining I can say is, like, from what I've seen anyway, like, I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know what's going over there in that cringe dumpster fire. But when I'm on YouTube or Instagram, which is like my main platforms I go to kind of suss out people's feelings about things, go into the comment section, see what people are saying, for the most part, people think this is fucking terrible, and this is ridiculous, and this is child abuse, and this is a form of grooming. Even people who are super left, super progressive, even people who are super non-political whatsoever think this is ridiculous, and how the hell did we get here? So there's a little hope in me that I kind of hope that it's one of those things where it gets so obviously ridiculous that the public at large start pushing back. Because I feel like at first, when it's not as obvious and you hear someone who happens to be a conservative or someone who happens to be a Republican talk about this, it's kind of just dismissed. But when it becomes like so public and so obviously wrong, when your normie mom and dad sees this and they start making a fuss, the hope is that there's some sort of mass awakening to the degeneracy of how society has become, and we push back against this. I believe Florida is not the only one who signed a bill, kind of like the parental control bill. I believe there was another state who did the same thing, and hopefully that continues. Homeschooling has becoming more and more prevalent. I believe New Hampshire was supposed to be like the beacon of this. But hey, like states and governments like to do, they'll probably, oppose more policies and laws to try to make that harder for people to do. But I do suggest that very much. And it's like I've said it in other videos, stop telling your kids that university is the only way in life, because they're just going to come out indoctrinated. I mean, depending on their major they want to go into, like if they're not going into science or robotics or engineering or some sort of medicine or something like that, like let them go travel, let them live their life, let them get a job, let them be their own boss, be entrepreneurs, let them get a trade before, sending them into indoctrination camp. I hope that if you don't share this video, I've probably already done it, but play some of Stevie Knight's clips in this video. He's the one that really encouraged me to talk about this. Like, he didn't want to go into it so much either because of the fear of being canceled, but this is going to my other channel. I don't care. So if you don't want to share this video, share Stevie Knight's video, share 𝕊𝕦𝕡𝕡𝕠𝕣𝕥 video that I'm going to react to in a second here. And if you have kids, like, go ask your children, be involved in what's going on in your kids' school lives, go through their book bags, go to the school and ask for a full-year curriculum. The next year, full-year curriculum if you can. If you don't have kids, but you know people who have kids, get this out, like share. If you know other people who have bigger platforms than me that can talk about this, that is interested in this, ask them, tell them about this, let them know, talk about this. Because my fear is, like, the silver lining is that people have a mass awakening, but my fear is that because people are so overworked and people are just trying to feed their kids and survive, that this will get ignored and swept under the rug because parents just aren't paying attention and just trusting that the school is doing the right thing. Anyway, we're gonna react to a little bit of 𝕊𝕦𝕡𝕡𝕠𝕥 because the first half of my video kind of focused on elementary age students, which is horrible. But 𝕊𝕦𝕡𝕡𝕠𝕒 was actually sent a questionnaire or something was sent to their child, and I believe their child is in like middle school, high school, which is a bit older, and I think it's a little bit more okay to discuss these things with older children depending on how it's discussed and talked about. But anyway, we're gonna react to 𝕊𝕦𝕡𝕡𝕠𝕒 and then I'll give you my commentary.
So a mom sent me this document from her child's 9th grade school out there in Missoula, Montana. And when we talk about grooming, y'all know how we have, they say, you people grooming. This is what we be talking about, man. We ain't just making it up for the heck of it. They sending these kids home with a questionnaire. It says questions for exploring sexual orientation. This is not information. This is grooming. This is leading questions. I'm gonna read some of the questions. The first one is I think y'all can see it, it's big enough. Defines heterosexuality. You go down and it says, how can you tell if someone is heterosexual? It's this whole grooming of questioning your mere existence. What causes heterosexuality? I'm going to scoot down here because I think this is where they try to get him at. 40% of married couples get divorced. Why is it so difficult for straights to stay in long-term relationships? Is that not a leading question? 99% of reported rapists are heterosexual. Why are straights so sexually aggressive? That's not a question. That is a statement. That is a statement. And I don't even believe 99% of reported rapists is that true. I highly doubt that. Because most men that get raped, they get raped in prison. So of course they're not gonna flaunt that stuff out there. It says the majority of child molesters are heterosexual. Do you consider it safe to expose children to heterosexual teachers, scout leaders, and coaches? It's grooming. Are you offended when a straight person of another gender comes onto you? When do you choose your sexual orientation? How easy would it be for you if you wanted to change your sexual orientation starting right now? I would go to prison. I'm gonna run up. I'm gonna run up there. I'd run up. What have been your reaction to answer these questions? What feelings have you experienced? Why? It's grooming, ladies and gentlemen. Grooming. They want your children to be thinking about this stuff. They want them to be, knee deep into questioning their very existence or feeling bad about their very existence of being what they would call heterosexual. I don't know what else to say. We should not be dealing with stuff like this.
All right, that was Brandon Tatum. I found the questions kind of interesting the way it was worded, because it said 40% of married couples. In a lot of states, homosexuals or gay couples can marry, so they just used married couples. They didn't use heterosexual married couples or straight married couples. They just said married couples. And he's right. I'm pretty sure they didn't add the sexual assaults that happen in male prisons, because who cares about men, right? And I would question the whole, most child predators are heterosexual. I would question if that's the majority, and if it is the majority, what really is the percentage? Is it 99.21, or is it 40-50, right? Because they didn't actually put the percentage, they just put the word majority, so you have to see the way they actually worded this questionnaire. And he's right, it basically looks like they're trying to demonize heterosexuality for some odd reason, and to make people not want to identify as heterosexual. We already see this happening now in a lot of universities, especially amongst white women who just don't want to be your average white Becky, because who wants to be that? Because you're just going to be deemed as a heteronormative racist, right? And so they just slap all these others freaking I'm non-binary, trans, gender fluid, asexual, autistic, self-diagnosed, just so I'm not that, right? And so let's demonize this so less people would identify as that, for whatever reason. Again, the other conspiracies, I brought up grooming, normalizing grooming. Other people think it's because of the pharmaceutical companies. More people who identify as trans and stuff like that is big money for the pharmaceuticals, to people to have to be on lifelong medications like hormone therapy and surgeries. Other people, and I also think that it's the breakdown of traditional homes where there is a man and women, masculine and feminine, because I think homes that don't have men or masculine men in the homes are easier to control by the state, because I do think women are just more easier to manipulate, emotional manipulate, because we are just more open and more sympathetic and more empathetic and more emotional, so it's easier to emotionally manipulate women. If you look at cults in general, the bigger population when it comes to the sexes of people who join cults are females, or men who have feminine temperaments, or men who are just predators and horrible people. But the majority of people who are going to cults because they just want to escape or they want to find a community are usually women or men with feminine temperaments.
The truth is, the far left has become a cult. The people that display these distinct personality types are the most likely to join a cult. Those who want to feel validated. Those who are seeking an identity. 100 new genders and sexual orientations daily. Spot on so far. When you feel like you don't have an identity, you will latch onto any movement that you feel will be inclusive to you. Number 3, those who are followers and not leaders. Those who constantly blame others. Those who are always angry. Those who have very low self-esteem. Also, you ever notice how the far left is mainly comprised of women? It's not an accident. Women are also way more likely to be indoctrinated and recruited into a cult. Look at how many more women are claiming to be for Black Lives Matter or vaccine mandates compared to men. Remember, women are usually more likely to suffer from self-esteem issues. Thus, they're more likely to be on the hunt for a higher purpose, a deeper meaning. Thus, more likely to be indoctrinated by these groups.
I think that when you have the lack of men or masculinity in the home, those homes are a lot more easier to control, easier to manipulate, and the kids produced out of those homes will be more easier to manipulate and control, because those kids, even if they're male, will most likely take on more of a feminine temperament if they come from a single mother home. And so they're trying to break down that structure so they can be easier to control. That's my belief system. You can at me in the comment section. I know like women might disagree with that, but that's my belief system. That's one of my conspiracies added to the many conspiracies of why this is happening. I also think a lot of teachers who may have suffered from their own gender dysphoria or gender stuff, sexuality as a child, and maybe experience negativity because of that, is projecting a lot of their own lived experiences onto small children, saying that, well, this happened to me, therefore I want to make sure these kids are inclusive, so they're not bullied and nothing happens to them and nothing bad happens to them. But they're more or less projecting their own past experiences onto their children instead of just being objective and unbiased teachers. Anyway, that's it, guys. That's all I have to say about that. I don't want to get more into it. I don't like talking about this stuff because as someone who is a victim of child abuse myself in every way, shape, or form, this is just disgusting. I mean, kids are so susceptible to these things. Like when my sister was little, I literally can convince her that I was a time traveler, and she was 8 years old at the time. You can convince kids of many things because they're sponges and they just suck up things. And so to think that this type of rhetoric isn't going to just be absorbed by children simply because they're kids and are susceptible to these things, and not because you're just helping them navigate life, I think it's ridiculous for anyone to think that. I would be just as disturbed if teachers were hyper vigilant about teaching kids about heterosexuality, if any sexuality is just weird at that age. I don't know why it seems to be hyper focused and hyper targeted on very small kids. I can see if this seemed like it was only high school kids, and it's like, okay, fine, still depends, but it seems to be very zeroed in on small kids. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to get notification when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, you can donate. My PayPal link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, subscribe. Another way you can support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Links down below. I also have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle. I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go to the description box below and also in the comment section. Hit the link. Go subscribe to my travel vlog channel and or following me on travel Instagram. My stories is usually what's most up to date, and you guys have an amazing day. Bye.